Ahoy there, I'm Notorious ALB, proprietor of Amidships. Today's episode of Early Warning Radar is for a smaller game, though don't be deceived. While this isn't set to be nor become a quintuple A blockbuster epic, it goes to show what one developer with enthusiasm and knowledge can achieve, and also a lesson in the fact that not all great ideas come in outwardly great packages. And so with my compliments, and without further ado, I invite you to join me on the quarterdeck as we take a look at A Painted Ocean. A Painted Ocean is a Napoleonic-era full-rigged ship sailing simulator developed by a solo developer, Neil Thappen. Using what are for the most part historically authentic orders and a third-person perspective, you must learn how to control this ship, and thus use it to travel the world. For example, if I were to say, keep her dice, or brace up the forward mizzen to garnsels,
what the fuck did you just say?
And you are at all confused, this might be quite the leap in terms of base knowledge. If, however, the strange incantations I have just performed invoke curiosity or even familiarity, then this game might be a fun little pickup for you. It started in 2011 under the working title Fifth Rate, and was intended as a prototype to explore two things: how sailing physics work, and how to control a ship's movement without the use of a conventional control scheme such as WASD or a joystick. The project was worked on intermittently over a 2 to 3 year period with the expectation that it would eventually expand from a simple simulation experiment into a proper game with oceans being replete with enemies, ports, and of course, prizes. Unfortunately, the time was not made to do this and Neil moved on to other projects. Much later, Neil decided to fix up what he had into a presentable state and make the project public in 2019, and I am so very glad that he did. It is in the alpha stages with the versioning at 0.6, which is where it's going to stay for the foreseeable. It's marked as on hold, and Neil himself states that this is an unfinished project. What is done is the simulation of the ship, the control system, the world, basic weather, and combat. There's a short shopping list of things that Neil would like to add as a sort of quasi-roadmap, though he himself states, there are a few things that I might still work on that seem like they could be fun to do and won't require any big changes to my hopelessly entangled Unity 4 code. It is available to download for free, and I've included a link to the project in the description. Indeed, if you liked Master and Commander for its comms, orders and drills, listening to how the ship was actually controlled, then A Painted Ocean is here to give you that in exact control over a fifth-rate frigate using orders alone. It features realistic sailing physics, so your ship will react to the wind in accordance with your current sail plan. This can make it confusing for a new player, but its single-player modes mean that this is a judgment-free zone and you can experiment to your heart's content without the worry of a court-martial should things go south. The sailing physics are so close to realistic that the ship takes a minute or two to pick up speed and perform manoeuvres. For this reason, 3 different forms of time compression are available. Physics compression is used to speed up how long it takes for the ship to turn or pick up speed. Travel compression decreases the time taken to travel, and of course time compression moves time forwards, which is useful for dealing with an unfavourable headwind or foul weather. The frigate you control is rather humorously called the HMS Alpha, which describes the game's state exactly, and is loosely based on the real fifth-rate frigate HMS Lively. This translates to 38 18-pounder guns, 1,600 tons displacement, 150 foot long from stem to stern, and a crew of 300 men. Lively belongs to the Red Squadron, flying the flag of Admiral of the Red at the time, which, not that anybody asked, was Sir William Cornwallis. When it comes to controlling the ship, you have the choice of either the command tree at the bottom, or you can click the sails and steer the wheel with the mouse yourself. More controls are detailed in the tutorial window pane, but it's nice to see alternative control methods for newer players that don't know the proper terminology yet, and just want to click what they see. The game world is a low-poly rendition of the real world, and is perfectly adequate for the purposes of what the game was intended for, though you will not be able to sail through the Pacific. This means that real locations from around the world can be visited, at least in spirit. You can't do anything once you're there, which, while an obvious shame, is completely understandable given that the game is a prototype sailing simulator and nothing more. Neil has also taken the time to model 1 year's worth of seasons and weather based on real meteorological data to produce accurate conditions, albeit they're from the 1980s. as well as accurate sailing speeds based on historical accounts. The focus is on sailing and travel, and so this game, in a manner of speaking, is all about the journey and not the destination. The journey, of course, being how to con a frigate, and it's the only game I'm aware of at least that actually allows you to go on that journey in such exacting detail. It has 3 game modes. Harbour is the enclosed tutorial area to practice in, where you have to try and get out of Portsmouth Harbour. There is a tutorial window pane that tells you exactly what to press and when, and it's located in the bottom left. Battle puts 2 frigates spawned and ready to fight broadside to broadside. Here you can put things like the weather gauge we hear so much about into practice. And finally, World, which is the full world sailing experience. You can also click to instantly teleport yourself to a different part of the world should you want to practice sailing in different seas. Here you can try to practice sailing the frigate in different conditions to learn the art of sailing, travel to a particular port, or you can challenge yourself in this mode by doing time trials or racing a friend by comparing your times. The modelled weather is fixed, so you will both be operating off of the same data. Sail racing isn't my cup of tea, but it might well be yours. I'll tell you what is my cup of tea though: immersion. While this game is grand on its own, I'm no stranger to using third-party programs to augment my gaming sessions. You can further enhance a painted ocean with a third-party voice recognition program like Voice Attack. This allows you to bring the barking of these orders to life. Brace the foresails a larboard. Set the topmast staysail. Set the jib. Haul in the headsails. Set the main and mizzen topsails. Trim the square sails. Trim the fore and aft sails. I've included my Voice Attack profile in the description should you wish to try this out for yourself. It covers about 95% of the orders, as some are impractical to control via voice alone. It has over 500 commands, all manually input by yours truly, and covers both correct and incorrect pronunciations of sailor terms. It even contains historic variations of terms such as port and larboard. Finally, utilising the capabilities of Voice Attack, I have added audio for beating to quarters. That includes a delayed run out of the great guns, as well as rolling broadsides that were not coded into the game at the time of this video. Starboard battery, rolling broadside, fire! All the commands match the text found in the game except for the custom and non-standard commands, which I have included in a readme specifying exactly what they are. Have fun. The ship model is simple, elegant and effective, with the sailors statically modelled on the weather deck for visual purposes, as well as the one lone sailor aloft. It looks positively charming, like a model railway scene, but for ships. It's a low poly style of graphics, not uncommon in Unity-based indie projects, but to be honest, that's all it needs to be. It works. It's one of the few cases where this low poly style suits the type of game that it is. I can imagine high-resolution textures and complex geometry used in other games actually detracting from the experience in this case. I find that the style lets your imagination fill in the blanks as you try to imagine what a very real past only some 200 years ago may have looked like. The sound is bare bones. There's no soundtrack, which is a good thing, and some basic sound effects are present for things like water, gunfire, and the sails luffing to illustrate what is happening on the screen, which serves its purpose and nothing more. There's also a synthesized wind that howls constantly. While the wind is important for purposes of propulsion, listening to for so long really starts to grate on me. Given the fact that this was more of an experiment, it makes sense for the sound to be like this, but in my experience, sound is one of the things that, when done right, can make all the difference in the world. For all of its faults, naval action has some fantastic ambience, and I wish that a painted ocean adopted more of this style of audio. While Neil has for the most part put this project to bed, I do have a couple of suggestions should he ever find himself wanting to add a bit more to this wonderful project of his. Firstly, when sailing at night, the ship reveals it has something missing. Add a couple of lanterns and lights about the ship so that it's illuminated at night for both visual effect and so I can see what I'm doing. The activation of these lights could also be added to the controls and tied to the watch system for extra effect. And secondly, the ability to save the game. I know only 1 year of weather is modelled and so this has its own complications, but I'd really love to save my progress on a long voyage or campaign that I've made for myself, especially if I didn't want to use the time, travel or physics compression features for realism reasons. The main benefit to this game, keeping a weather eye on the future, is that it can be used as a training aid, allowing you to practice the commands and orders authentic to the period, so you can bring them to your crews in games like Sea of Thieves and the upcoming MMO, Ahoy. If these games made concessions for this kind of control of their ships, it would make not only for better sailing games, but serve better as a form of historical preservation. This, I believe, is especially important as the art of sailing a square-rigged ship is very nearly lost, with only select books, specialist trainers, and obscure sources able to actually divulge anything of value on the subject. That being said, outside of learning to sail the frigate, there is nothing else to do, so you will have to make your own fun. I'm quite happy pretending I've got Admiralty orders to sail to Port Mahon and collect an intelligence agent from Joselito's coffee house. Others might not be, however. During my playtime, I haven't come across any other ships in the open world, and so for battle, I need to arrange the combat myself using the menus. All in all, A Painted Ocean is a great little game with a simple idea, executed simply. I believe Neil has the beginnings of lightning in a bottle, and I'm really hoping that the development of this idea by him, or someone else, continues so that we can see this truly flourish. If you are developing an Age of Sail game, or want to, take the ideas surrounding frigate control displayed in this game and run with them. Naval action has its travel looking like this. Sea of Thieves has its travel looking like this. That's not how sails work. This idea is quite literally one of a kind, and its execution is simply too good to be left within this single project. Wouldn't you agree? Let me know your thoughts and maybe any ideas you would use to expand on it by dropping a comment below. And as always, if you love talking ship as much as I do, don't forget to subscribe and strike the bell. Thank you for watching.